Hi guys, welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia and I'm coming to you as always from Munich, from the south of Germany. Today is, what is it? It is Sunday, the 28th of July 2019. And I'm so glad that you're joining me today to talk about some knitting and some spinning. Today I will have no finished objects once again. My knitting has been all over the place, mainly because we have been having this crazy heat wave and Tour de Fleece is happening and sadly ending today. So I considered not even doing a podcast, but I do have some whips, I do have a lot of spinning to share with you, and I do have some sneaky acquisitions. So I decided to just jump in and just talk to you guys about knitting, about spinning, about yarn, and yeah. Again, this will be a shorter one. Thank you to everyone who told me that they do appreciate those shorter episodes. I think they can be quite fun to film, so that's great to know, and we will just see how it goes. So if you're a new viewer, welcome. I really hope that you will enjoy this show, and if you're coming back, thank you as always for being a regular viewer, and of course, as usual, I will try to keep the more knitting relevant content to the beginning of the show, so if you're not interested in any of the parts of the podcast, you can just skip those and that will be fine. Also a reminder, we do have a Ravelry group which is linked right underneath this video, and please feel free to join in. I don't do show notes, but you can find pretty good notes on all my knitting projects just using my project pages, which is I think the best place to store all that information, because that way it isn't only there for you guys to see it, but to anyone who wants to find out about a yarn or pattern or whatever, just, essential Ravelry benefits. So again, those will be linked right underneath this video as well. All right, shall we just jump in? I just grabbed a couple of knitting projects. Remember back in the day, for pretty much most of my knitting podcasting time, when I used to have a certain amount of whips and I would work on all of them and then show all of them to you, that has just gone out of the window. Like lately I just work on a couple of things and I just show you random things, and I can't even remember when I last finished anything. But like I said, let's just blame that on the crazy heat and the spinning, and yeah, it's my podcast, it's my knitting, so I'm not going to force myself to work on things or make rules about my knitting as long as it keeps me happy, which it does. So, what did I grab? I grabbed this project simply because it was right in front of me and on the couch when I decided to do a podcast. So these are still the socks that I'm knitting for my sister. They're so cute, and they're especially cute because they're so small, because my sister has tiny feet. These are some socks out of good old Regia German sock yarn. This was one of their Christmas colorways from their, I think it's called Seasons something, Regia Season Color, which is this range. I think they came out with that about 2 years ago. I just have hoarded this skein in my stash. This is a colorway number. I know it is named Plätzchen, which are the traditional Christmas cookies that we have here in Germany. So I'm just doing a plain vanilla sock with this really fun self-patterning yarn. I'm using 56 stitches on a 2.25 millimeter US size 1 needle with a fish lip skiss heel. And I have finished the first sock and started the second one, but my sock mojo isn't really there. So I kind of want these to be done, but I would have to work on these to get them done. So we will see when they happen. But really, if I just work on them, they will go quite fast because they're pretty quick, short socks with not that many stitches. So that's the good thing about knitting socks for my sisters. They are much quicker than knitting socks for myself or knitting socks for men. So that is that. Maybe I should talk very quickly about what I am wearing. I just threw on this shawl. I'm kind of wearing weird stuff today because it's been crazy hot, and then it cooled down, and now it's kind of in this in-between stage where our apartment is quite warm, but then it's cold outside, and is it summer? Is it winter? Is it autumn? No one knows. So what I'm wearing is is the Good Vibes shawl, which I am 99% sure is by NCL Knits. It's a really fun two-color shawl with like a lacy part. I can't really show it to you without taking it off, but it's got these really fun feather and fan parts and then a more solid part. And I do wear the shawl quite a lot. It's a really good staple in my wardrobe. All right, let's talk about some sweaters, shall we? Because the other pair of socks, I've barely worked on them, if at all, and I want to cast on new socks, but I'm just not feeling any of the socks that I'm working on right now. I'm not really feeling my knitting that much at the moment, but I think once I've just finished a lot of spinning, and I think I just need to kind of clear my palette, and then I'll be back into the knitting more. So let's talk about 2 out of my 3 sweaters. The one that I'm not going to show you today, even though I've worked on it, is my handspun sweater, because I've been suffering from hay fever and somehow that handspun sweater is making me sneeze. So I've been working on it, and then I've gotten quite miserable while working on it, like sneezing and coughing. Not sure what's up with that, but I've just kind of taken that out of my knitting rotation for now, but I will get back to it. Maybe it'll be easier now that it's a little bit cooler and it'll be more enjoyable to work on again. But one sweater that I worked on a lot, because I've been doing a lot of knitting while watching the Tour de France, is my boxy. And you may remember this. I'm knitting this out of a skein of Wollmeise lace, which is they come in 300-gram skeins, which then end up being huge cakes. This is in their Catriona colorway. It's coming across very brownish. It's more like a greenish mustard yellow. It's looking very brown today. Oh well. Last time I was still working on the body of my sweater, and this is kind of hard to show. Look at my pretty sweater. No. What I have since done is I've actually finished the body, and I have also finished the front, and I can't really show it to you because I have both of the front pieces just on a needle, because then I will just do a 3-needle bind off once I finish the back. So this is what is making it very, very hard to show you. But essentially you can see this is the front, it's done. I've done all the short rows, I've done the neck shaping, and now I just need to work up the back, finish the back piece, and then essentially I have a couple of sleeves to knit and this thing will be done. So I'm very, very happy with this progress. Quite honestly, when I started knitting a boxy out of lace weight yarn, I thought I would be knitting it forever and ever and ever. But really, I've only been working on this for about 3 weeks. So I feel like this has gone much faster than I thought it would. I am knitting it on gauge, so I think 23 stitches per 4 inches is what you're supposed to get, and that's what I'm doing. And so it's not really, a lace weight garment. And also I have reduced the number of stitches on here, so it is not as boxy. It is still a tent, it's still huge, but it's less huge than the pattern suggests. So of course, again, that is making it a bit of a quicker knit, but I think I still have over 300 stitches, maybe exactly 300 stitches per round. So it's still a pretty big knit, and I really enjoyed it. I'm really enjoying it, and I think the rest is going to go quite fast. I'm just not super excited about the part where you just knit and purl, after you separate for the armholes. Like once you start doing the shoulder shaping and the neckline shaping, it kind of gets fun. But just going in plain rows back and forth, not so fun. But I think I will try to work on this tonight when I watch the finale of the Tour de France, because that will be perfect for that, and then hopefully the rest will go pretty quickly. So that is my progress on the boxy. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm not showing it to you very well, but it's difficult to show in this stage. All right, and my other project that I'm going to show you today is my sweater, which is the third rendition of the Strange Brew pattern by Tin Can Knits. I've talked about this pattern so many times, so I'm going to try to keep it short. Essentially, it is a sort of design your own sweater recipe. Like I said, it's called Strange Brew. There's also a collection called Strange Brew by Tin Can Knits, which comes with a recipe as well as just different sweater patterns. So with the Strange Brew recipe, you can either knit top down or bottom up. You can do short rows or no short rows, and you can basically do whatever you want with it, so you can design your own color work. So like I said, this is my third rendition. I am once again doing the DK weight version. This is the yoke. Last time I showed it to you, I had just split for the sleeves. And as you can see, I think I'm pretty close to actually being done with the body. So I've made quite a bit of progress on this too, which I'm very proud of. I feel like I've knit almost 2 sweater bodies in this last week. So I'm very, very happy with that progress. I need to actually try this on. I have not tried on this garment at all. I tend not to do that anymore because I tend to knit very similar sweaters, so I kind of know what I need to do to make it fit me. So I've done a couple of decreases for the waist because I do like to have some decreases, some waist shaping, just a little bit. Not sure if you can see it. And like you can obviously see, I knit the entire body in one color. But what I am thinking of doing is, I think I might do like a color work rib at the bottom, like possibly a very long one, where I do the knit stitches in the blue, like a 1x1 rib, and do the knit stitches in the blue and then stripe the black and white for the pearls. I think that could be really, really fun. So that's what I'm thinking right now. But really, I just need to put this on a longer needle and try it on and figure out how long I want this sweater to be, because I haven't really decided yet what I want with this. But I do love the yoke, and I talked about this yarn last week. This may be one of my favorite yarns that I've knit with this entire year. Not sponsored, I'm just a fan of this yarn. Because can you see how beautiful the color work is? And that's not because I'm a color work genius, it's just because this yarn lends itself to color work so well. It is Dererum Natura in the Ulysse base, which is a French yarn. It is a woolen spun yarn. It is very spongy and soft, and it's a rustic yarn, or it's a woolly yarn in the sense that it's not superwash. It is very sheepy, but it is incredibly soft at the same time. I don't know how they achieve this yarn. It kind of reminds me in the feel of Brooklyn Tweed Loft, although I've only seen that in the skein and knit up, but I haven't knit with it myself because that is crazy expensive here in Germany. But that's what I think it may resemble. It's a beautiful, beautiful yarn, and I'm just amazed because I didn't expect this yarn to be so soft. And you know me, I like my itchy yarn. I'm not necessarily one for all the soft yarns all the time. But to have a yarn that is both like color work, non-superwash, like all the things that I like, and to be a little bit more soft is just beautiful. So this is the label. Again, I'm sorry, I'm not sponsored. I'm not getting anything. I bought this with my own money. Actually, with my birthday money. This was my birthday present to myself. But I'm just really, really in love with this yarn. The only thing that I will say is I think I am somehow knitting this on a tighter gauge than I usually knit. Or I should say, I tend to knit quite loosely and quite relaxed, but with this yarn I'm noticing, I think because it's a little bit more like spongy and stretchy, I tend to tension it differently, and it is making my wrists hurt a tiny bit, which is why I tend to stop every now and then with this, because I'm not going to risk messing up my wrist just because I want to make progress on this sweater quickly. I'm just going to take my time. But I love this yarn. I have a bit of a yarn mess here because I just started a new ball, and I don't know what happened. But that is my Strange Brew sweater number 3. And yeah, very happy with it. So that's all I'm going to talk about in terms of knitting. I've also, like I said, I've been working a tiny bit on my other sweater. I've been working on, I can show you my work shawl actually. I tend to forget about this whip because it is my work shawl in the sense that I work here. I work from my home office quite a lot because we don't have offices in Munich. And this shawl sits next to me, and whenever I have a really, really long phone conference or something where I don't need to type anything, I will just knit. So this is the only time that I essentially work on this, and you can see I have had a lot of phone conferences lately because I've made quite a bit of progress. So this is the simplest shawl ever. It's a garter stitch shawl based on the Diving In recipe, which is a free shawl pattern on Ravelry. It is a pattern that usually uses 2 colors and does some striping, but I have only ever used it, and I've used it a couple of times for one color, single color shawls where I just like the shape that you get with the increases and the decreases. It just makes for a nice sort of asymmetrical triangle. So it's a perfect mindless project, and that is exactly what I wanted when I started the shawl, because I wanted to use this yarn which is hand spun, and I just think the colors speak for themselves, and they look really nice just playing out like that with nothing else to, take the focus away from the colors and the yarn. So this yarn is a BFL mohair blend. It's one of the first ever skeins that I spun on my Ashford eSpinner 3 when I got it 2.5 months ago. So I'm just working on this, and at some point I will either run out of yarn or I will get sick of this and then I will bind it off, and that will be that. So nothing super interesting, but I have been working on this every now and then as well. And that was not planned, but the perfect segue into the next segment, which will be all about spinning. So if you're not a spinner, if you're not interested, because I know spinning on podcasts is just not that popular, and I get it. I kind of sometimes watch sewing segments on other people's podcasts, but I don't sew, so it doesn't always spark that much joy in me. Anyways, so if you don't want to watch it, just skip ahead. If not, I will just quickly talk to you guys about what I've been spinning for Tour de Fleece. So if you don't know, right now is the Tour de France, which is the major bike race around France, and I love it. And there is this accompanying, I guess, spinning event where a lot of spinners in the online communities and beyond, they do a lot of spinning at the same time. So they kind of spin along with the cyclists. There are different teams and rules and all of that, and I have no idea about that. I was going to try and participate properly this year, and then lots of stuff happened at the same time, and it just didn't happen. And then I said I was just going to spin a lot during the Tour de France, and then again, I didn't spin for the first half of it because I was just too busy and private stuff was going on, and it didn't work out. But those last, I don't know, 8 days, 10 days, I caught up, and I must say I just love watching the cycling. I love it. I'm a huge fan, and I've just lately I've been watching the entire cycling after work, so it's been a lot of late nights, but I have done some spinning. So sorry, I can't decide whether I want coffee or spinning. Coffee first, obviously. So I finished 3 projects. The first one is this skein. I think I started this possibly the day before Tour de Fleece officially began, but I don't care. And this is a skein. I originally had 300 grams of this fiber, which is I think it's a South American wool and viscose blend. So it's just this kind of tweedy fiber, and I had 300 grams of this as well as 100 grams of the same fiber content in a gray, which I had already spun up. And I purchased that amount of fiber because I wanted to originally spin for a garment. But the first skein that I spun, the gray, was more like a DK weight, so it was much thicker than I thought it would be. And for this second and bigger part of the fiber, I again wanted to spin thinner and spin something that could maybe become a garment. But I just didn't really enjoy the process, and I was trying to spin this thin, but it's a tweedy yarn, so it kind of lent itself to a more woolen spinning method, and it just didn't want to be spun super fine. Like, some fiber just doesn't want to be spun a certain way, at least for me. So I kind of tried and didn't really enjoy the process of it, and at some point I just decided to let the fiber do whatever it wanted, and I only spun about 100 grams and then put the rest of the fiber back in the stash because it just didn't work the way I wanted it to. But I did finish the skein. It's a 2-ply, and you can see all the tweedy naps in here, and I think it turned out really nicely. And the fun thing is that I measured the yardage. I have forgotten it now, but I know I posted it on Instagram, partly so I would be able to then look it up later and remember. But I know that this skein and the gray skein that I spun in the past pretty much have the exact same characteristics and yardage and so on. So now I can actually do a 2-color tweedy project of some kind. I'm thinking maybe like a Christmas gift for my niece, who is 2.5 now. I think out of 2 skeins, so almost 200 grams of yarn, I could maybe do her like a little tweedy striped jacket or something. That could be really cute. I could do a lot of things with this. I could also do a colorwork cowl for myself. So in the end, it actually turned out quite nice, but I'm glad I stopped after that first 100 grams because, like I said, I just wasn't really enjoying it. Not because I didn't like the fiber, but because I wanted to be spinning different things. So then I started my big Tour de Fleece spin, which is this skein. This is fiber from Das Mondschaf. And this is a Polworth fiber, and I love Polworth. I think that's one of my it's possibly my favorite breed of sheep or kind of fiber to spin in the whole wild world. I don't know why I don't spin with it more often. I know that every time I spun Polworth, I've really enjoyed it. I remember when I first started spinning about 3.5, 4 years ago on my wheel. I spun this orange and purple and pinkish braid of Polworth, and I then knitted up into a lace shawl, and I really enjoyed the whole thing. But anyway, so I was very happy when I got this fiber, and I just grabbed it and decided to spin really finely and just have a really nice spinning experience. And this fiber, that was exactly what I had needed to enjoy my spinning again. I spun this short forward draw, so a classic worsted spin from a braid. Worsted spin, worsted prep. And then I did a 2-ply, and as you can see, I ended up with this beautiful sort of pearly ply texture, and I think it came out really nicely. I did spin this super fine, and I was quite interested in how it would turn out because Polworth is one of those fibers that just fluffs up a whole lot when you wash it. So I have had it in the past where I thought I spun this really fine yarn, and then you wash it and suddenly it goes from a fingering weight to a DK weight, just like that, because it has all this fluff and all this bounce. But this one actually stayed quite nice, and that's why I also applied it relatively tightly, because I wanted it to keep from just changing a whole lot when I washed it. And I am crazy happy with the results. So I got 585 meters in this skein, which is a little bit over 100 grams. And I'm so happy with this. Again, I think this would be a great lace shawl. It doesn't have the most amazing stitch definition. Just, I think this fiber, just like if I wanted something super lacy, maybe a silk blend would be better than this. But I think for what it is, I think it will be a really nice shawl. Not sure how I feel about the colors. I got quite a few comments from people who love the colors. I wasn't really sure about them. But I think it's going to be something really nice and delicate. And I'm just really happy with the technical quality of this spinning project, if I may say so myself. I hope this doesn't sound like me tooting my own horn. I just like to get technical with my spinning every now and then, and I'm just really happy with this. And this was spun on my e-spinner, as well as this skein. And then I started another skein, and it all started with I was oiling my e-spinner, and I decided that I should probably give my other wheel, my traditional wheel, which is a Bliss by the Woolmakers, some love as well. So I just, did some oiled it and tried to kind of just give it some love because it hasn't really gotten any. And then I was like, well, maybe it would be nice to spin something on that wheel as well. So what did I do? I pulled out 2 braids of fiber, or 2 just pieces of roving that I actually purchased in, I think, May. When we were in Allgäu near the Alps, we went to a market and there was someone selling fiber for felting. And it was ridiculously cheap. He said it was felting fiber, but I'm pretty sure it was just 100% merino fiber. It was, I think I paid like, I don't know, €3 per 100 grams. So it was very, very affordable. I kind of really didn't know what I was buying, but it just felt like your, average single colored merino that you can order online for not very much money and use for your blending board and such. So I got 1 roving in yellow and 1 roving in a natural white. And I decided to pull those out, and I spun each color onto 1 bobbin. So I had 1 yellow single and 1 white single, and I spun them to about a lace to fingering weight single. So I was aiming to get a sport weight, maybe DK weight, maybe fingering weight, 2-ply yarn in the end, and I spun that on my Bliss wheel. So I spun it the traditional way, I guess. And then this morning I had the 1 bobbin of the yellow and 1 bobbin of the white, and I then plied it into a 2-ply Barber pole yarn on my e-spinner. And don't you love these bobbins? These are the Ashford e-spinner bobbins, and these hold about 200 to 300 grams of yarn. This is 200 grams, and there's still space on here. And that's one reason why I really love my e-spinner, because the bobbins are just so spacious and really great. Again, not sponsored, just telling you my opinion. Apparently, I'm very, very enthusiastic today. Sorry. Anyways, so I literally finished this 5 minutes before starting this podcast, which is why it is still on the bobbin. But this is the yarn that I ended up with, 200 grams of 2-ply Barber poly goodness, and I'm really happy with this. This kind of project is one of the very rare cases where I bought the fiber with exactly a plan as to how I wanted to spin it, and that's exactly what I've done. I have no idea about the yardage, to be honest. I think once it fluffs up a little bit, I am thinking it will be between maybe DK, maybe sport weight. So pretty much what I had expected. I think it's going to be very soft. I'm pretty sure this is just a merino fiber. It's non-superwash. And yeah, I have quite a bit of yardage. I have quite a bit of, this equals 2 skeins of yarn, really. So again, I thought about making something for my niece out of it, but it isn't superwash. So that I don't think that's a good idea, especially because my sister-in-law and her husband, they're not knitters, they're not crafters, and there are some people who I would give non-superwash things to, but I think they wouldn't really be the right people to get it. So I'm not sure what I will do with it, but I do really like the color for myself as well. So whatever it grows up to be, I'm really happy with that. So yeah, that is my spinning. That's all the spinning that I've been doing. It feels like I've been doing so much spinning. Three skeins isn't that much to show for it, but I've been really enjoying it, and that is the main thing. And I do think that the whole Tour de Fleece thing, even though I didn't do it properly, it has just motivated me a little bit more to spin, and it's been really nice to see more spinning pop up on Instagram and all that. So yeah, that is that. Sorry, I'm really waffling on today. Oh well. Let us talk about some acquisitions before I let you guys go, because I do have some acquisitions. All of them come from yesterday when I met up with both my knitting friend Marion and also a longtime Instagram knitting friend who is Hazel. Um, we've been talking in the past because she's also been dyeing yarn, and she has sent me some hand-dyed yarn in the past. Some of you may remember, but this was quite a while ago, and it's and my first ever MCN, so merino nylon cashmere socks from hand dyed yarn that she dyed for me. But I think that was about 2.5 years ago, so I don't expect you to remember. Anyways, we met up in person for the first time because she was visiting from Singapore. So naturally, we went yarn shopping. We went to my favorite yarn store, which is Die Mercerie. And yeah, I came home with some yarn. So first of all, Hazel was so lovely. She knows what colors I like, and she dyed me up some yarn and brought it for me. And this is the skein that she gave me. Again, she remembers that my love for MCN and my lack thereof in my stash. So this is another merino cashmere nylon blend. And look at these colors, aren't they beautiful? This yarn is so soft. It is incredibly soft. I wish you had philo vision and you could feel how soft this yarn is. I love it. I love the tonality of the colors as well. She showed us a photo of a hat that she had knit with the same colorway, and it's beautiful. I don't think she's selling at the moment because she is traveling all over the world, because she is lucky like that. But if she ever does in the future, I would definitely let you know, and I will be definitely getting all the yarn from her because this is really fun. Also, I was in the store and I had kind of no real plan as to what I wanted to get. I kind of felt like I didn't need any yarn. Really, I don't. I mean, who does? And yeah, I was quite clueless for a long time until Hazel pulled out a skein of Madeline Tosh. And it was one that I probably wouldn't have picked up, but once she had it in her hands, I kind of couldn't stop thinking about it. And you guys, look at this. This is really hard to show on camera. It's kind of blowing out, but this is a beautiful tonal red. It's called Blood Runs, and it's their Tosh Merino Light base. I wish it would show up better because this is really not doing it justice. Maybe if I hold it back more. It's a beautiful, warm and tonal and slightly darker, less vibrant, but still very, very much red. I find it very hard to describe it. I guess Blood Runs describes it pretty well. And I just fell in love with this color. I fell really hard for this color. And I had some reservations about it. First of all, because this is a singles yarn, and I don't always even generally like to knit with singles yarn because I don't like how fuzzy it gets. I do like it every now and then, but I'm not a huge lover of singles. And I did want this to be a sweater, and I know that it's not a good idea, and I don't need any feedback on that because I already know. But I just love the color, and I decided to just go for it, knit myself a single sweater, and if it holds up better than expected, then that's great. And if it doesn't, you can all say, we told you so. Because I know the downsides. I would never recommend to anyone to knit a sweater out of singles yarn. I know plenty of people who do, and please don't feel judged if you're one of them. It's just I get very annoyed when things pill, and this is going to pill. But then at the same time, this is super soft, so this will be a super, super comfortable sweater. And in the end, I just decided to go for it because I have never found a red that I loved as much as I love this one. And it is a color that I don't have in my wardrobe yet. I don't think I have any sweater quantities in this color. And I've been wanting to knit with more red anyways, so I just decided to go for it. The other reason, and this one is a little bit more difficult to talk about, is that I had my doubts about this was because how do I say this? In the midst of all the talk about racism and white supremacy and diversity in the knitting community, which has been pretty much going on ever since the beginning of the year, mostly over on Instagram, but not limited to that. There were some differing opinions about Madeline Tosh and the way that they handled themselves, which I personally do think they could have handled it much better, and I was quite disappointed with some of the things that went on. I won't go into detail, but I'm sure if you followed along the discussions, you will know what I mean. Which is why I hadn't purchased any yarn of theirs for a while. I think I used one of their skeins from my stash in the brioche shawl by, oh god, Susanne Sommer. I knit one of her brioche shawls and I used one of my old stash skeins. But I kind of waited it out to see how Madeline Tosh would continue in this discussion and what they would do. Because I do like to vote with my money, but I also don't necessarily only believe in cancel culture. And so, yeah, this is my first purchase since then of their yarns. I'm neither saying you shouldn't buy the yarn nor am I advertising for them. I personally think they're trying to do better, and that's the start. I feel like they are doing better. They did apologize for their mistakes, so I decided to give them another shot, give them another chance, and I do realize that, yeah, just by talking about this, just by showing it to you, just by expressing my opinion, I'm making this very complicated, but then again, we shouldn't shy away from these things, and I don't want to be buying something and not showing it to you because I don't know how I feel about it. So I'm being transparent about that. Make up your own mind. Do whatever you want. Buy whatever yarn you want. Vote with your money or don't. It's up to you. I think it's important to be critical and to think about what brands you're supporting and what people you're supporting and what their views are. I don't think you can just stick to the knitting and keep politics out of it. But in this case, I feel like maybe we shouldn't cancel Madeline Tosh forever either, because they did speak up and they did, I think, acknowledge their mistake and they're trying to move forward. So that is where I stand, and feel free to disagree with me. The only thing that I won't allow is comments that are somehow threatening to parts of this community. So if any of those pop up underneath this video, I will moderate. All right, I think I've waffled on about this yarn enough and waved it in your face. Those are my acquisitions for this week. In terms of life in general, it's pretty much most and more of the same. Work is busy, life is busy. We had this crazy heat wave, which just seems to make everything more exhausting. But it has finally cooled down, and also I think work is going to calm down too. Cross your fingers for me there. I only have 2.5 more weeks to work before we go on holiday, which I'm crazy excited about. And also quite a few of my colleagues are starting their holidays now, so I'm just hoping that things will quiet down a little bit. I will be able to work a little bit less and just enjoy summer, enjoy life, enjoy my knitting. That would be a nice break. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I want to talk about today. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for joining me, sticking around. listening to me waffle and struggling to put together sentences. I will probably be back next weekend. Until I see you again, thank you so much for watching. Happy knitting. Bye.